First contact in the ruins. Dr. Sarah Chen never expected to make history in a half-collapsed alien temple. The beam of her plasma torch cut through the perpetual twilight of HD 2275 bits, illuminating walls adorned with scripts so ancient they predated humanity's first steps into space. Her boots crunched against crystalline fragments as she documented another section of the vast archaeological site. The temple had stood for millennia before her arrival, its spires of obsidian-like material piercing the violet sky. Whatever civilization had built it was long gone, leaving behind only whispers in stone and metal. As Earth's leading Shen archaeologist, Sarah had spent the last 3 years studying these ruins, trying to piece together the story of their creators. Today felt different. The air itself seemed charged with anticipation, making the fine hairs on her neck stand on end. Her instruments had detected an energy signature unlike anything previously recorded in the ruins. Following the signal had led her deeper into the temple complex than she'd ever ventured before. The passageway ahead narrowed, its walls bearing fresh scorch marks. Sarah's heart rate quickened. These weren't ancient battle scars. The carbon scoring was still warm. Someone, or something, had been here recently. Protocol dictated she should retreat and call for security backup. But the energy signature was growing stronger, pulsing like a beacon in the darkness. A thunderous crash echoed through the corridor. Sarah instinctively ducked behind a fallen column, her torch beam dancing wildly across the walls. The sound of labored breathing reached her ears, followed by the distinctive scrape of metal against stone. Whatever was around the corner was large, injured, and definitely not human. Sarah's mind raced through her options. The nearest human settlement was hours away. If someone needed help, waiting for backup could mean their death. Against every regulation in the book, she edged forward, keeping close to the wall. The sight that greeted her stopped her breath. A warrior lay slumped against an ancient altar, nearly 3 meters tall with iridescent scaled armor that seemed to shift colors in her torchlight. The being was clearly female, with proud, angular features that spoke of both strength and intelligence. Dark fluid, blood, Sarah realized, pooled beneath where a massive wound had torn through the warrior's side. The alien's eyes snapped open, revealing pupils like liquid gold. Her hand moved to grasp a weapon that resembled a cross between a sword and an energy rifle, but the movement caused her to grunt in pain. "Easy," Sarah said, raising her empty hands. "I'm not here to hurt you." She took a careful step forward, noting how the warrior's eyes tracked her movement. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, Chen archaeologist. I can help." The warrior's laugh was more like a growl. "You? Help me? Little human, you don't know what forces you meddle with." Despite her words, pain and exhaustion were evident in her voice. "Maybe not," Sarah replied, taking another step. "But I know basic field medicine, and if I don't stop that bleeding, nothing else will matter." She reached slowly for the medical kit at her belt. "What's your name?" The warrior was silent for a long moment, studying Sarah with those unnerving golden eyes. Finally, she spoke. "I am Kara, battle commander of the 7th Fleet." She paused, coughing wetly. "Or I was, until today." Sarah moved closer, opening her medkit. "What happened?" "Treachery," Kara spat. "My own second in command. They seek something hidden in these ruins, something that should remain buried." Her eyes unfocused slightly. "I tried to stop them." "Save your strength," Sarah said, pulling out antiseptic and synthetic skin patches. "This might hurt, but it'll keep you alive." She began cleaning the wound, noting with fascination how Kara's blood seemed to shimmer with bioluminescent particles. The warrior remained stoically silent throughout the treatment, though Sarah could see her jaw clenching with pain. As she worked, Sarah's mind whirled with questions. The existence of living aliens was humanity's most closely guarded secret. Official first contact wasn't supposed to happen for another decade. Yet here she was, patching up a warrior from an unknown species in the ruins of an even more ancient civilization. "Why are you helping me?" Kara asked suddenly. Your kind fears mine. They would shoot me on sight. Sarah secured the last synthetic skin patch before answering. Because it's the right thing to do. Because you needed help, and I could give it. She sat back on her heels, meeting those golden eyes. And because I've spent my life studying the remnants of dead civilizations, I'd rather learn about a living one. Kara's expression shifted, something like respect flickering across her features. You are either very brave or very foolish, Dr. Sarah Chen. She tested her side, wincing slightly. Perhaps both. I get that a lot, Sarah replied with a small smile. Can you stand? We need to get you somewhere safer. My research base isn't far. No, Kara's voice was sharp. They will look for me there first. There are chambers deeper in the temple, places they don't know about yet. She struggled to rise, her impressive height making Sarah feel distinctly small. Help me reach them, and I will tell you why blood has been spilled in your precious ruins. Sarah knew she was about to cross a line from which there would be no return. Everything she'd worked for, her career, her reputation, possibly even her life, would be at risk. But the historian in her, the part that had always burned to know more, had already made the decision. Lead the way, battle commander, she said, offering her shoulder for support. Together, human and alien warrior began their descent into the temple's depths, leaving behind a trail of shimmering blood drops that gleamed like fallen stars in the darkness. Neither of them noticed the small drone that detached itself from the shadows, its recording instruments capturing every moment of their unlikely alliance. High above the temple, in orbit around HD 2000, 275 bits, Kara's former allies received the footage with growing interest. The hunt was about to begin. Trust forged in darkness. Deep within the temple's forgotten chambers, Sarah worked by the glow of ancient crystals that pulsed with their own inner light. The space carried the weight of millennia, its walls covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Kara sat against a curved wall, her golden eyes reflecting the crystalline illumination as she watched Sarah examine the room's mysterious technology. Your fascination with these ruins is curious, Kara observed, her voice stronger than it had been hours before. They hold more danger than you realize. Sarah ran her scanner over a column of symbols. That's exactly why I need to understand them. Knowledge isn't inherently dangerous. It's what people do with it that matters. She turned to face the warrior. Like whatever your former allies are searching for. Kara's expression darkened. The Ascendancy believes they've discovered the location of a stellar forge, a device capable of manipulating the very fabric of space-time. She shifted, testing her healing wound. Our ancestors fought wars over such technology, nearly destroying themselves in the process. That's why my people became guardians, sworn to prevent such weapons from being found. But your second-in-command disagreed with that mission, Sarah surmised, settling down beside the warrior. The height difference between them was still striking, but she'd grown accustomed to it. Verex. Kara practically spat the name. He believes our role should be to claim these weapons, not protect others from them. He's convinced half the fleet to follow him. Her fist clenched. They think they can control powers that drove entire civilizations to extinction. A distant rumble caused dust to drift down from the ceiling. Sarah's hand instinctively went to her plasma torch. They're searching the upper levels. Yes. Kara pushed herself to her feet, moving with more fluidity than before. Your medical treatment was effective, but we cannot stay here. The deeper chambers will be safer. Sarah quickly packed her equipment. Just how deep does this temple go? Deeper than your instruments can detect. These ruins are merely the surface of something far more vast. Kara moved to a seemingly blank wall and pressed her palm against it. Lines of light spread from her touch, forming complex geometric patterns. The builders left safeguards that respond only to certain genetic markers. My people inherited that legacy. The wall shimmered and became transparent, revealing a sloping passage bathed in soft blue light. Sarah's scientific mind raced with questions, but the growing sounds of destruction from above kept them unasked. They hurried into the passage, the wall solidifying behind them. As they descended, Sarah noticed Kara watching her with an unreadable expression. "You adapt quickly to the impossible," the warrior said. "Most humans would be paralyzed with fear or drunk on the power of these discoveries. I've spent my career learning that the universe is stranger than we imagine," Sarah replied. "Besides, fear doesn't help us survive, and power." She gestured to their surroundings. "Look what the pursuit of power did to the civilization that built this place." Kara made a sound that might have been approval. "Perhaps that is why you were meant to find me. The temple's defenses would have killed most intruders, yet they led you to me." The passage opened into a vast chamber that took Sarah's breath away. Holographic displays filled the air, showing star systems and swirling energies she couldn't comprehend. At the center stood a pyramid of dark crystal, its surface covered in the same shifting patterns as the walls above. "The temple's heart," Kara explained, moving to a control panel. "From here, we can monitor the entire complex," and she stopped, her expression hardening. "No." Sarah joined her at the panel, watching as security feeds showed dozens of armed figures moving through the upper levels. They wore armor similar to Kara's but darker, more predatory in design. Leading them was a towering warrior whose presence seemed to dim the very lights around him. "Varix," Kara growled. "He's brought more forces than I expected. They're not just searching now. They're establishing control of the temple systems. Can they access this level?" "Not easily, but they'll find a way. Varix knows too many of our secrets." Kara's hands flew over the controls. "We need to prevent them from reaching the forge's location. But first," she turned to Sarah, her expression intense. "I must know if I can trust you completely." Sarah met those golden eyes without hesitation. "I helped you when I could have walked away. I've broken every protocol my people have about alien contact. What more proof do you need? What I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know about your species' place in the galaxy. Once you learn this truth, there will be no going back. Your life will never be the same." Another explosion rocked the chamber. On the security feeds, Varix's forces were making steady progress downward. Time was running out. Sarah squared her shoulders. "I dedicated my life to uncovering the truth about ancient civilizations. I'm not going to turn away from it now, no matter how difficult it might be." Kara nodded slowly. "Then let me show you why these ruins truly exist, and why your people were guided to this star system." She pressed her palm to the crystal pyramid. "It's time you learned about the Great Confluence and humanity's role in what is to come." The pyramid began to pulse with intense light, and the holographic displays transformed into a vast star map. At its center, Earth glowed like a beacon, connected by lines of force to thousands of other worlds. Sarah watched in awe as the truth about humanity's destiny began to unfold before her eyes. Above them, Varix and his warriors continued their relentless descent into the temple's depths, unaware that the very knowledge they sought had already begun to reveal itself, not to them, but to a human archaeologist who had chosen compassion over fear. The true purpose of the ruins, and humanity's connection to their builders, was about to change everything. The price of honor. The holographic display bathed Sarah's face in ethereal light as she absorbed the impossible truth before her. Earth's position in the star map pulsed with purpose, connected to the temple and countless other sites across the galaxy by threads of luminous energy. "Your people were not meant to discover space travel by chance," Kara had explained, her voice resonating in the chamber. "You were guided. Every breakthrough in physics, every leap in understanding, subtle influences from sites like this, preparing humanity for what comes next." "The Great Confluence," Sarah breathed, watching as the map showed a wave of energy approaching their galaxy. "What is it?" "A cosmic event that occurs once every 100,000 years, a moment when the barriers between dimensions thin, allowing for." Kara paused as another explosion shook the chamber. allowing for evolution on a scale your scientists cannot imagine. The security feeds showed Varex's forces had reached the middle levels of the temple. Their weapons were cutting through ancient defenses with frightening efficiency. My people were tasked with preparing younger species for this moment. Kara continued, her golden eyes reflecting the dancing lights. But some, like Varex, believe we should use the confluence to ascend alone, leaving other species behind. Her expression hardened, or worse, enslaving them. Sarah's mind raced with implications. The Stellar Forge. It's not just a weapon, is it? No, it's a tool for channeling the confluence's energy. In the right hands, it could guide multiple species through the evolution. In the wrong hands, Kara's fist clenched. It could be used to absorb the energy entirely, transforming a single species into something approaching godhood, while leaving everyone else behind. Sarah finished. She turned to study the map again, noticing how the energy threads seemed to pulse in sync with her heartbeat. Why show me this? Why trust me? Kara moved to stand beside her, towering but no longer intimidating. Because the builders chose your species for a reason. Humanity's greatest strength isn't your technology or your intelligence. It's your capacity for growth, for overcoming limitations. You could have killed me when you found me. Instead, you chose to help. The chamber's lights flickered as another explosion rocked the structure. Varex's forces were getting closer. They're through the outer defenses, Kara announced, moving to the control panel. We have minutes at most. She turned to Sarah, her expression intense. The forge's location is hidden in these ruins, but its key was split into two parts. I carry one within my genetic code. The other? Let me guess, Sarah said, her heart racing. The other part is encoded in human DNA. That's why you needed humanity to reach this level of development naturally, without interference. Yes, the builders believed that only a partnership between our species could safely guide the confluence. Kara's hands flew over the controls, bringing up new displays. Varex cannot be allowed to reach the forge. Even if he kills us both, without the complete key, he cannot. Her words cut off as a massive explosion breached the chamber's outer doors. Through the smoke strode Varex, his dark armor seeming to absorb the light around him. A dozen warriors flanked him, weapons trained on Sarah and Kara. Cannot what, old friend? Varex's voice was deep, almost musical in its mockery. Cannot fulfill our species' destiny. Cannot claim the power that is rightfully ours. He gestured, and his warriors spread out around the chamber. You always lacked vision, Kara. And you always lacked wisdom, Kara replied, subtly positioning herself between Varex and Sarah. The builders chose two species for a reason. Power without partnership leads only to destruction. Varex laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally. Partnership. With them. He fixed his gaze on Sarah, eyes like burning coals. Look at her, barely a century of space flight, and you think they're ready for the confluence. He stepped forward, his armor shifting like living shadow. Step aside, Kara. Let me extract what we need from the human. I promise to make it quick. Sarah felt Kara tense beside her. The warrior's wound had healed enough for combat, but they were drastically outnumbered. Yet something about Varex's words sparked an idea in Sarah's mind. You're afraid, she said suddenly, her voice carrying in the charged air. Not of us, of what we represent. Varex's eyes narrowed. You dare. We represent change. Sarah continued, stepping forward despite Kara's attempted restraint. Evolution. The unknown. Your species has guided others for so long. You've stopped growing yourselves. That's the real reason the builders chose humanity as partners. We're not afraid to leap into the dark. The chamber grew preternaturally still. Sarah could feel the weight of ancient knowledge around them, the wisdom of civilizations long past. She met Varex's burning gaze without flinching. The confluence is coming whether you accept it or not, she said. The only choice is whether we face it together or tear ourselves apart fighting over power were not meant to control alone. For a moment, doubt flickered across Verex's features. Then his expression hardened, and he raised his weapon. Enough philosophy. The forge will be ours. Kill them both. The chamber erupted in chaos. Kara moved with blinding speed, her recovered strength evident, as she engaged multiple warriors at once. Sarah dove behind the crystal pyramid, as energy weapons filled the air with deadly light. The battle for humanity's cosmic destiny had begun. But deep in the temple systems, triggered by the presence of both genetic keys and combat, ancient protocols were awakening. The builders had planned for this moment, this clash of ideologies. As Sarah and Kara fought for survival, the true purpose of the temple was about to reveal itself, and none of them were prepared for what would happen next. Warriors of two worlds. The temple's crystal heart pulsed with increasing intensity as the battle raged. Sarah ducked behind a control panel as energy blasts scorched the air above her. Kara moved like living lightning, her recovered strength allowing her to hold off multiple attackers at once. But Verex's forces were relentless. Their dark armor absorbed the temple's light, making them seem like shadows given form. Sarah watched in horror as one of them flanked Kara, preparing a killing shot. Without thinking, Sarah grabbed her plasma torch and fired. The beam caught the warrior in their helmet's vision slit, sending them staggering backward. Kara seized the opportunity, dispatching the disoriented attacker with brutal efficiency. The human has spirit. Verex's voice boomed through the chaos. But spirit alone cannot stop evolution. He raised his hand, and dark energy began to coalesce around him. The temple systems reacted violently, alarms blaring in ancient languages. He's trying to force a connection to the forge. Kara shouted, fighting her way back to Sarah's position. The temple's safeguards are failing. Sarah's scientific mind raced. The holographic displays were changing, showing new patterns of energy converging on their location. Kara, look. The genetic keys, they're resonating with the temple's core. The crystal pyramid at the chamber's center had begun to vibrate, its surface patterns flowing like liquid light. Where before it had shown star maps, now it displayed complex equations and diagrams that shifted faster than the eye could follow. Impossible, Verex growled, his attack faltering. The forge's activation sequence requires precise control. Unless, his burning eyes widened, unless this was never about the forge at all. A deep harmonic tone filled the chamber, and the battle temporarily ceased as all present felt its resonance in their bones. The pyramid's light grew blinding, and from its apex, a beam of pure energy shot upward, piercing through the temple's levels to the sky above. "You've never understood the builder's true purpose," Kara said, her voice carrying a note of revelation. The forge was never a weapon. It was a test. The chamber's walls became transparent, revealing the vast machinery hidden behind them. Countless gears and crystals moved in perfect synchronization, performing calculations beyond current human or alien understanding. The test of what? Sarah asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Of cooperation, Kara replied. The builders knew that only species who could work together, who could trust across boundaries of biology and culture, would be ready for the confluence. Verex laughed, but there was an edge of desperation in it. Pretty words, but they won't stop us from taking what we want. He signaled his remaining warriors. Kill them and take their genetic material. We'll decipher the builder's machinery ourselves. But as his forces moved to attack, the temple responded. The flowing patterns on the walls suddenly crystallized, forming new structures. Barriers of pure energy sprang up, separating the combatants. The temple is activating its final protocol, Kara breathed, watching as the machinery around them accelerated. Sarah, your theory about the genetic keys. I think you were right. The holographic displays were formed, showing the approaching wave of the confluence. But now Sarah could see something new in the data, a pattern, a purpose that had eluded them before. It's not just about evolution, she said, her voice filled with wonder. The confluence is a bridge between species. The builders didn't want us to guide it. They wanted us to join it. Together. Varric slammed his fist against the energy barrier, his armor crackling with dark power. You're deluding yourselves. Power must be seized, controlled. The strong must lead. No, Kara countered. The strong must lift others up. That's what the builders were trying to teach us. She turned to Sarah. Your wounds earlier, you could have left me to die. Instead, you chose to help, even at great risk to yourself. That choice proved you were ready. The chamber's transformation accelerated. The machinery behind the walls began to align in new configurations, responding to the combined presence of human and alien DNA. The pyramid's light took on new colors, impossible hues that spoke of other dimensions. The forge was never here, Sarah realized. This entire temple is a key to something larger, something that requires both our species to access. Varric's forces fired at the energy barriers, but their weapons had no effect. The temple's final protocol was beyond their power to stop. Above them, through the hole the energy beam had carved, they could see the sky changing. The confluence was approaching faster than anyone had predicted. A choice must be made, Kara said, looking at Sarah. The builders left us a path, but walking it will change us forever. Are you ready? Sarah looked at the display showing the approaching cosmic event, at Varric and his warriors raging against their containment, at the ancient machinery preparing for a transformation beyond current understanding. Then she looked at Kara, the alien warrior who had become so much more than an ally. Together, she asked, extending her hand. Kara's golden eyes softened as she clasped Sarah's hand in her much larger one. Together, the pyramid's light engulfed them both as the confluence began. Humanity's next great evolution would not be a solitary journey, but one shared with friends among the stars. The builders had known this truth eons ago, that the greatest power comes not from dominance, but from unity. As the chamber filled with transformative energy, Varric and his warriors could only watch as the future they had fought against became reality. The age of isolation was ending. The age of partnership was about to begin. And in the light of that new dawn, both humanity and Kara's people would find their true destiny. Legacy of the stars. The confluence changed everything. 10 years after that fateful day in the temple, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the Harmony Station, watching ships from a dozen species dock and depart. The massive space station orbited the point where humanity had first witnessed the merging of dimensions, its crystalline architecture a blend of human innovation and alien wisdom. Below her, HD 2275 Bits's temple still stood, but it was no longer a solitary ruin. The thriving city had grown around it, where humans and members of Kara's species, now known to humanity as the Ardeni, worked together to understand the builder's legacy. Still admiring the view, Kara's familiar voice carried across the deck. The Ardeni warrior had changed too, her once military bearing now balanced with diplomatic grace. The gold in her eyes seemed brighter, holding echoes of the energy that had transformed them both. Hard not to, Sarah replied, turning to greet her friend. Sometimes I still can't believe how far we've come. They had emerged from the confluence changed but intact, their DNA altered in subtle ways that scientists were still trying to understand. But the most profound changes hadn't been physical. They were cultural, spiritual, reaching across the divide between species to forge something entirely new. Varric's latest appeal for release was denied, Kara said, joining Sarah at the viewport. Some of his followers still claim we betrayed our species' destiny. Sarah shook her head. They're looking backward instead of forward. The builders knew that isolation leads to stagnation. Look at what we've achieved together in just a decade. She gestured to a holographic display, showing the progress of the Harmony Initiative. Hundreds of worlds were now connected through a network of temples, similar to the one they discovered. Each site had awakened after the confluence, revealing new aspects of the builder's plan. The latest survey team found another temple complex in the Carina sector, Kerha reported. Early analysis suggests it was designed to interact with a species we haven't encountered yet. More friends we haven't met, Sarah said with a smile. The builders really did think of everything. Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime. The station's central chamber was preparing for the day's most important event, the activation of the first human-Ardani joint consciousness interface. It was a step beyond anything either species had achieved alone, made possible only by their shared evolution. As they walked to the chamber, Sarah reflected on how much had changed. Varex's dire predictions of weakness through cooperation had proven spectacularly wrong. Instead of diluting either species' strength, their partnership had enhanced it. Human ingenuity combined with Ardani wisdom had solved problems that had stumped both races for centuries. The central chamber hummed with possibility. Teams of human and Ardani scientists made final adjustments to equipment that merged their different technological approaches. At the center stood a device that echoed the temple's crystal pyramid, but refined and improved through their combined understanding. "Ready?" Kerha asked as they took their positions. Sarah nodded, feeling the familiar resonance between them, a gift of the confluence that had strengthened over the years. Always. The interface activated, and their minds expanded into a shared space of pure potential. Here, the barriers between species fell away completely. They could see the builder's grand design with perfect clarity, not a plan for domination or singular advancement, but a tapestry of interconnected civilizations, each contributing their unique strengths to a greater whole. Through their connected consciousness, they glimpsed the next phase of the builder's legacy. More temples would awaken, more species would join the network, and with each new connection, the universe itself would grow richer, more vibrant, more alive. When they emerged from the interface, Sarah caught Kira's eye and saw her own wonder reflected there. A decade ago, they had been strangers divided by fear and suspicion. Now they were partners in something greater than either had imagined possible. The builders weren't guiding us toward a destination, Sarah said softly. They were showing us a beginning. Kerha nodded, her expression thoughtful. And what comes next will be written by all of us together. Above them, through the station's crystal dome, new ships were arriving. Representatives from distant worlds drawn by the echoes of the confluence. Each carried their own stories, their own potential contributions to the growing tapestry of interstellar civilization. The age of isolation was truly over. The legacy of the stars belonged not to any one species, but to all who were willing to reach across the void and grasp hands in friendship. Sarah and Kara had shown it was possible. Now countless others would follow, building bridges between worlds and forging a future brighter than any single species could create alone. The builder's greatest lesson had been simple. True power lies not in dominance, but in unity. And in that truth, all the children of the stars would find their way home.